Nothing's ever new around here, man.
Still see you're getting around to painting that place, eh?
Well, this is so far. This room is so far down on the priority list.
We are live for another week of the Bogus Hangout. As you can see, we've already got a packed panel, and we are going to have some good conversation. But I will put out the link very, very soon. But first of all, let's just kick off with what we've been up to between ourselves. So, Bill, as ever, you go first. What have you been up to this week?
This week I've been practicing speaking. I'm giving a presentation next week at PubCon, and I wanted to do a good job, make a good impression, and feel comfortable with what I'm talking about. And it seems like I keep on finding new stuff to add to my presentation. I came across a patent this morning that would make a good addition. I don't know if I want to add to it, though. Because I keep on adding, I'll never stop.
Yeah. Timing is the hardest part of any presentation, I think, when you're writing it compared to how it comes across when you present it. And I must admit, I tend to leave gaps. I tend to have less than I think I'll need in the presentation, because even though sometimes the nerves kick in when you're there and you actually go much faster through the presentation live than you think you will, it's always easy to look around at the audience and to take a break and to pace it if you need to. You can always slow it down. It's hard to speed it up.
I thought I was in trouble when I hit the 50 slide mark. And then I went through the presentation. It took me about 25 minutes to go through 50 slides, so I was happy with that.
Yeah.
I figure give people a chance to ask questions and me a chance to answer some of them.
So, Steve, you were saying you were getting back into speaking. Do you struggle with slide decks? I know I do. I really do struggle with it.
I hate building a deck. I almost never follow it, which is what is really bad, because I'll have a slide deck and get 5 slides in and go completely off. And it usually works out for me because I tend to speak at smaller groups that aren't in the industry. And usually what I find myself doing is starting off with a plan, and then questions will start coming out of the audience and just completely ruin any presentation that I had. And everybody seems to enjoy it, so it works out.
Yeah. Yeah. I must admit, I've always wanted to catch Terry speaking, because there are certain words you could throw in, and he'd be off on a tangent for an hour.
Exactly.
Terry, apart from obviously client meetings, do you do any presentations?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I've done a few at SES in Toronto. I don't really care for presentations. I like more the abstract stuff, like the future of SEO, where you're taking questions and stuff. I prefer those. I ain't much for speeches and that kind of baloney. Not really my style.
You don't have to prepare.
Well, yeah, and it's too much work to prepare for it. So
That's
usually what ends it for me. I did it once and I'll never do it again. Haven't spoke since either.
I was always happy to do the workshop sessions, where we do the reviews of the sites.
Right.
There's no slides to prepare. No, you can't prepare anything for that. So those were great, because you just turn up and do your thing.
And to me, that's the best way to teach people, is the actual hands-on. Like, what I've found is there's a lot of people in our industry who don't even really know how to look at a problem, and use the right tools to figure out what the deal is. For me, that's half of what I'd like to try and teach people is, how you even take it apart and look at it.
I think you're right. For a lot of people, that's better. But there are people who prefer having the coursework, having the slide deck that they can go back to, having the article. They like to read it and really absorb it. And I do find that you kind of it depends on the topic which is going to work better. But I must admit, I often find people get a lot more from the written reports I give than the face-to-face, and then there's another group of people who get much more from the face-to-face than they ever will from the written report. And I think you do kind of get both types at conferences, and it's worth having the deck, I think, for the topics that need one.
Right. Well, one of the things I've found is, especially since I tend to speak to, like I said, outside of our industry groups, that trying to dumb down what I'm talking about to a level that's understandable by the average person really helps you understand what you do better. You know, it's real easy to, magic box, I win. But when you get to where, you get your, I mean, the presentation I'm working on, it's been handed back to me twice saying dumb it down. And it's like, okay, we'll go ahead and get it as dumbed down as I think we possibly can, but at a certain point, you have to say anything less than this, you won't get any value out of.
Yeah. And there's so much of SEO that is like that, where oversimplification is going to be the curse of it. SEO isn't simple. We've put in a lot of years into the positions we're at, and where you're going to get in just a month of quick study is nowhere. You're going to get enough to maybe make a not terrible selection of an SEO company. That's it. You're not going to get anything less than that from a month. I mean, we used to say that just to get a junior level SEO was 3 years experience, really.
You wouldn't think that by the way people treat you when you give them an hourly rate.
There's some truth to that. I've put the live link in the event, so we may have some other people jumping in and joining us. But Steve, what's a typical week for you look like? What's your last week look like, apart from the tractor?
Well, see, and this is where my life is fun, because I have two separate lives that ride side by side with each other. Most of my weeks, my normal day starts off with going out and feeding the ducks and feeding the guineas and taking care of the critters. Then we come in and work. I mean, I do a lot of client work. Probably later this winter, when the outdoor weather turns to horrible, I'll start working on some of my own projects again. And then usually around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm done working for the day, and I head back out to the farm and do farm stuff. But in the meantime, I'm squeezing in, I'm writing a book and trying to get back into some other non-work things, because life's too short to work all the time.
Yeah. Now that's the one thing I've never managed to do is the book.
It's hard just to say, okay, I'm going to sit down and do nothing but write for the next 2 hours. And the next thing you know, you're playing solitaire. And you're watching a YouTube video, and it just gets you. One of the things that I found that's helped me a lot is I built a blog that I haven't told anybody about. And I write blog posts about various topics within the book to help me get ideas down somewhere. And then eventually I'll pull all that back together and delete the blog, and the book will be available, I think.
I use Evernote for that. And if you use their blogging platform, Pistachio, then once you got done with all of everything that you're putting in there, if you wanted to, you could tag it with whatever tag you configured it to work, and it'll turn like all of your notes into a blog post just right there. Boom, magic.
I like that. I've been for when I sit down to actually write, I write in Scrivener. I really like the way that's set up. It's much more useful to me than just a Word document or anything. I think maybe that's why I've been using the blog posts because of the way Scrivener set it.
It's not the writing that I struggle with, because I do the reports and I do the articles. And it's the idea of a book. I am a perfectionist. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but I want that book when it comes out to be absolutely perfect, at least for a little while. And the thing is, there's always that delay between you finishing it and it getting published, in which something changes, and the thought of that drives me nuts.
I heard a quote. I wish I could remember who said this, and they said, and this is what keeps me writing, is it's not about being the best person to write the book. It's about being the best person that actually wrote the book. And that's an interesting way to look at it, because there are people who know a whole lot more about what I'm writing about than I do, but none of them are writing about it. So by default, that makes me the best person for it.
I like that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, John knows certainly a bit about sharing time between the web work and the farm work.
Yeah, I just came in from about 3 hours of doing battle with my boysenberry plants and getting them up on the vine, and lots of little touchies in the hands. Yeah, they're brutal. They're brutal, and I only got about halfway done. So they're all tangled in with each other, and you're pulling them out and laying them out in long strips, and then bringing them up and twining them on the trellis, and it's a big job. So yeah, that's what I've been doing this morning.
Cool. You guys will have to start your very own tractor hangouts.
There you go.
Somebody suggested at one point that I put together a what they call a micro farm franchise for tech people, where we just give them you order a box and you get a small tractor, all the implements, all the seeds, all the books on how to do it, and it just shows up and says, here's your micro farm. And you could probably make a lot of money selling a kit like that to tech people who want to be out in the country.
Yeah, little radio-controlled model tractor for the people who've only got a very small garden.
Yeah, right.
Real micro farming.
Can you put it into like a planter box?
Yeah, it's very therapeutic. If after finishing all that, you feel very comfortable sitting down for a while. So it works. It works well.
I must admit, I find carpentry and DIY stuff does exactly the same kind of thing for me.
Yeah.
I love building the shelves and units and things like that, or in the shed together. There is something when the hands are busy but the mind is free that lets you really explore ideas in a different way. And for those who don't have those skills, I'll tell you what, even things like washing up and cooking can do some of the same. Cooking I find not quite as much, because the creative mind is still engaged, but something like doing the dishes is brilliant stuff, because the hands can do it almost automatically. Your mind is free.
And you're also getting hydrotherapy. I'm not laughing. I'm a massage therapist. It really is true.
So, Terry, I mean, you used to be a chef, so presumably cooking is a bit more automatic for you in a way.
I don't. Most of the stuff I've been cooking for 30 years, probably. So I don't even think about when I'm doing it. Don't measure anything, taste it, nothing. Just comes together.
That's why that finger's a little short, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I do that, but I do agree washing dishes is a good way to get lost. Not think about nothing.
How about you, Bill? What's your thing that keeps the body occupied but lets the mind be free?
I like going out, walking around with my camera and taking pictures of nature, of things I see. that refreshes me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that. It's fun.
Yeah, gets the endorphins going as well, because you know, exercise is good for you. It's good for your creative mind.
I don't necessarily walk around too fast. I tend to be focused too much on my surroundings, but I like getting back from the walk in front of my computer and taking a look at the pictures and seeing what turned out well and uploading some of them and maybe saving some for projects I'm working on.
Do you like to play with filters then after? Or do you like, is the art side of it more as you're taking the picture?
I like trying to take the best pictures I can.
Cool.
You know,
I think a lot of people like to play around afterwards so much so it doesn't even matter if you get a good shot or not. But I've noticed with the things that you capture, it looks like you're very thoughtful in it.
Try to frame things well and get stuff in the picture that I wanted in the picture, and it's part of the fun of it, deciding how to approach a shot best.
How about you, Fab? Do you have particular jobs that kind of free the mind while keeping the body busy?
Yeah, I would say probably swimming. I just came back from it, actually. I took a break after work. Being underwater relaxes me in general. You can still think about stuff, but maybe in a different way. Definitely not the dishes. Rather than washing the dishes, I go online. I go sit down and I Google something random. If my girlfriend asks me to wash the dishes, I try to find any activity. Disgusting. It's just not.
You like break dishes just so she'll never ask you to do it again. Oops.
There's no space for the washing machine in the flat, which makes it complicated as well. So.
Yeah. So I mean, those it is one of my two things. If you find that you get stuck creatively, you know, the equivalent of writer's block, but you get stuck on an idea, either one of these two will work. Either forget about it and go and watch a really involving drama, film, book, something that gets the mind working on something completely else, something that really focuses the mind on something completely different. Or go and try those really, you know, those tasks that leave the mind free while keeping your body busy, and one of those will certainly do it every single time.
I love going out and like raking leaves or like pulling leaves. I've even gone so far, like if I'm all done with our house, then I'll go to the next door neighbor and start pulling their weeds.
I'll pay you $7 an hour. Come to buy.
I'll take it. That's a good rate right now.
Steve's front lawn's probably a couple acres.
I can make a lot of money.
Yeah, she's got a point. That just means steadier work. It's funny the way that can work, the way that, you know, the mind can get itself into a rut where you're going the same track over and over again, and just breaking up your routine lets you break out of that rut. I must admit, it's one of the reasons I watch a lot of stuff that's got nothing to do with marketing, and I read a lot of books that have nothing to do with marketing. And I often get great marketing ideas from things that have nothing to do with marketing.
I almost never read for work. It's really rare that I'll read a book that's related to the industry at all. When I read, it's purely for pleasure.
Well, I think when you get to a certain stage, you can do that. Have you always been like that, or was there a time when you were learning the industry that, you know, your reading choices were different?
Fortunately, I'm old enough. I was here before the industry was, so you know, it's kind of, you know, Terry, you know, several others are the same way. We were here before search engines, and we'll be here after whatever replaces them, because what we do isn't necessarily search, it's marketing. So I get a lot of really good marketing ideas from, of all things, science fiction. When you start thinking about, you know, getting people to do things that they don't necessarily realize they want to do or need to do, those kinds of hero journeys can actually really play into marketing very well. So it's indirectly related, but when I get to read for fun, it's just to read for fun.
Well, that makes sense because like what you're essentially doing when you're marketing is you're turning whoever it is that you're working with into the hero.
Well, David has said that thinks it's worth knowing when to read and knowing when to stop reading and what not to bother reading.
Yeah, David helps me with that.
So true in SEO, it really is. There's a lot of stuff out there that, you know what, it may look good. You know that old saying, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck? In SEO, there's proof that there's a lot of fake ducks out there. It may look and sound and walk like one, but it ain't. There's a lot of people who base their knowledge on reading other people's blogs on it, and it just lacks that bit of application. I do think it's one of the things I like to see when people are talking about marketing in general is the application. Where did you use this? In which circumstance did it work? What made this work for you? Because it may not work for everybody else. There's very few things that will work for everybody. Very, very few things. The more specific it is, the more useful it is, the less chance there is that it's going to work for everybody.
Well said.
Especially if you're getting the ideas from Warrior Forum or somewhere.
Steve's best ideas come from there. Don't let him.
I've got one client. I told you the next time he sends me a link to Warrior Forum, I will fire him. I will no longer work with him. Stop reading there. He's like, well, I just read this post, and I go look, and it's from 2011. It's like, stop it!
Oh my goodness! I have to give a shout out to David Couture because he's been my hero in that respect a few times. I'll like send him a link and he'll be like, but why are you reading this? Is stupid. Stop. Thanks, David. I'll stop going down that wrong channel.
I was thrown in that last night he dreamed he was eating a giant marshmallow. He woke up this morning and his albino son was gone. Good to know. Yeah. We've got Craig saying he likes reading cookbooks, which kind of combines the two things. So there you are. Terry, start writing some cookbooks. You've got your market right there.
And include one with strawberries, and then Craig will put it in his collection, and it will go viral.
Yeah. It's... Sorry, I've just seen this one, The Ducks of Hazzard. You've just described the Warrior Forum.
We got a bunch of comedians here today.
The Warrior Forum, it's one of those interesting ones. It's had its moments over the years.
Oh, yes, certainly.
But by and large, and I don't know whether it's the name attracts the script kiddie kinds. I think to an extent, if it wasn't called the Warrior Forum, it might have a different flavour. But also, it's kind of got entrenched. You know, you've got some of the people there that are of a certain mindset, and it makes it very difficult for people of another mindset to join. And there's less cross-pollination of ideas from that. I think one of the things that made Creator Site what it was, and it was never a big forum, was the very fact that there was kind of room for everybody. It didn't matter what style of, you know, we had designers who hated SEO in a forum that had a large SEO section, but they were open to the idea. And
we had people who would take a discussion and stop it in the middle and talk about accessibility for 3 or 4 or 5 posts and change the tempo of the conversation completely. And accessibility can really make a positive difference for things like SEO. But most people don't think about it or talk about it.
And
Usability.
that's
Sorry,
and I find that to be a problem more with people who've had websites for a very long time and have been reasonably successful for that very long time. It's really hard to get them to let go of certain things. It's like, if we improve these user experience areas, overall your site will do better. And they're like, yeah, but that's not SEO. So, but technically it is, because everything you're doing is your end goal is the conversion. You've already got this massive amount of traffic, but it's not converting. Let's find out why. And it can be a real challenge because a lot of people who've been successful or have had a reasonable amount of time in the business are stuck.
I took a look at my meta description for my homepage this morning, and it bugged me, so I changed it. And I haven't liked it for a long time, but thought it was descriptive of the site. But it wasn't helping me get new clients.
Yeah.
That's something I've really enjoyed about doing this series with Vin on the fundamentals of marketing, is looking at so many different aspects and how it builds up, from how we first structure a company and what the objective of a business is, to then how you understand your customers and how fundamental they are to it. Right after your business, the most important thing is your customers. Yeah, if you don't have a business, you don't have customers. So let's start with a business. But if you don't have a market, you don't have a business either. And building up through that I've really enjoyed that, and I like. We decided at the last minute to divide SEO into 3 sections, but I like the fact that we did, and we divided that as, first how search engines view SEO, roughly where the algorithmic side of SEO comes from. The second thing is how people use search, because, that's the bit that I think so many people miss when they say, oh, SEO is dead. Well, no, there is a real searcher psychology that is an art in itself, and there's a lot of SEOs who don't get it, and they can get great rankings, but they can't get great results because they don't get that. And the next one we're going to be doing is the business side of SEO, and how we take what we know about how the engines work and how the users work, and then tie that into specific goals, and sometimes break our own rules. Yeah, we know that this would rank really well and attract users, but commercially it's not viable.
Right. I've been having a discussion with another friend of mine, and we've been really studying a lot of game theory lately, and how to apply that into conversion metrics and calls to action, and trying to find ways to apply that to businesses you wouldn't normally think of when you think games, because there's that certain little high you get when you get four red dots across the screen and they all pop. You get that little tiny little, and it's how can you apply that to marketing and get that game theory to pull customers deeper into your website without making it a game or making it overly obvious or whatever. So there's so much more to it than just links and content, and it's the right content in the right place with the right call to action.
Exactly. There's so much to it, and one of the things that in the last session I said, the reason the users are so important in SEO is a bit like there's a lot of technical SEOs who know the rules, and it's like knowing the rules of chess. I know how all the pieces move, but that's not how you play chess. How you play chess is reacting to the other guy's strategy. You both know how all the pieces move, but the guy who can successfully think your moves ahead of you knows what you're going to try and do. He's the one that's going to win. It's the psychology that wins it every single time. Yeah, come on in, guys. Go on. What's your question, John?
Oh, okay. I bought a new Apple Watch, and so one of the things that I did was do a bunch of searching for various accessories and yada yada yada. And one of the things that I've noticed before, but I really noticed because I was so intently searching, and having watched you talking with Vin about the psychology of search, I started thinking about that as I was being the searcher. And one of the things I noticed that as I was searching for information, not at the buying stage yet, but just information, that virtually, like 98% of the informational websites I landed on would have been disastrous in Google's web guidelines. I mean, absolutely hideous. Tiny paragraph, ad. Tiny paragraph, ad. Ad. It was appalling, and it was like every single site. It seems like there is an opportunity for people that want to do a halfway decent job. I'm assuming that Google is, and correct me if I'm way off base, I'm assuming that Google is saying, well, they're all terrible, so we have to use something in the search, so we'll show all these the best of the terrible ones,
Typical SEOs, everybody doing the same thing. If everybody is doing the same thing, everyone's getting kicked in the ass the same way. Because what you were talking about with the banners in the copy, that's hit by Panda every time.
Yeah. But they're there. They're on page 1. Every single one of them was on page 1. I mean, I didn't go to page 2.
But they're all doing the same thing, John.
Yeah, right.
No, just don't get it. Everybody is doing stupid things, then stupid things will rank.
Okay, here's the thing. Most of the businesses haven't yet been watching the series that we've been doing with Vin. So they are focusing on trying to sell their product instead of realizing that the chance to brand is before somebody's even selected which product to buy.
Yeah, I was at the branding stage. I was looking for the brands. Yeah. I was learning.
The people who are good at doing the information tend to be information webmasters, i.e., it's ad driven. They write authority stuff, they write good content, good articles, but it's all driven by ads. So that's why you see so many ads up there, is because the sites that have the authority at that level are ad driven instead of the ones that are you know what, we've got a business, we can fund this education because this education gives us better leads, us better customers, and I think there just needs to be that slight shift.
Yeah, I noticed when I finally went to buy something, most of those websites had no information. They had nothing about, I mean, like I was looking for a waterproof case, so that I could take the watch kayaking. And there's only 2 of them out there. One of them isn't going to be available till November. And the one that was out there had no video, no information of how easy it was to assemble or not assemble, or whether you could put other bands on it, or any kinds of things that would really hook you in to saying, that's the one I want. Nothing. It was just, and when you clicked contact us, you didn't go to a contact page. You went back to the same page. In other words, the site was broken.
The question that immediately comes to my mind is, you paid what for a watch and it isn't already waterproof?
Actually, technically it is waterproof, but when you pay that much money for a watch, you don't want to take any chances.
No. You look after it. You get a case. You get a submarine. You just use a submarine.
Well, the kind of waterproof I need is a little more serious, because I'm diving and I'm surfing waves with the kayak, and I really beat the manure out of everything that I wear when I'm kayaking. So I gotta protect it. So I've got everything's waterproofed and protected a lot. I just don't.
So you're one of those
trust
guys with a bread tied to your wrist.
Well, I have a depth gauge and a compass, and I have a ship-to-shore radio thing attached to me with earphones, waterproof earphones on, so we can talk. And I've got all kinds of strobes on me because we go way out there at night. We oftentimes do this at night. So yeah, we look like a SEAL team, with all our equipment.
Haven't you ever seen Jaws when they go swimming at night? It's a bad idea.
Actually, I've only seen one shark in the 14 years that I've been kayaking out there. And that one shark actually was 2 weeks ago, because we're getting the warm water here in Southern California. And it was just a little baby. It was just a little guy. And that's the only shark I've ever seen when kayaking. Now, when I used to go fishing with my dad, when we used to cross the channel between Long Beach Harbor and Catalina Island a lot, we saw sharks a lot, but those were usually way out in the channel.
Yeah, we don't. We're lucky here in the UK. We don't get a lot of sharks. They don't like the weather, I don't think.
Yeah. It's too damn cold.
It's about 3 miles out, and that's about it, really.
Also, no one goes to the sea probably. That's better.
I must admit, most of our sharks are more like the kind you'll find in your courtrooms over there.
Yeah. Yeah, those are serious sharks too.
Oh yeah.
I'd rather meet the one in the water myself.
Okay, that brings me to an interesting question. What industries do you least want to work with or absolutely refuse? So let's take that around everyone. Bill, you got any industries you really don't want to be dealing with?
Let's say this multi-level marketers.
Not an industry. We try to probably.
I don't do affiliates because they've almost never got the room to do anything different. They haven't got much room to do marketing. They've got the product that everyone else has got, and they've got to sell it at the price everyone else has got. It doesn't really give you a lot of leeway to do anything interesting with. So simply because I can't do anything interesting with them, I don't work with affiliates. Fab, how about you?
Well, probably I would say travel. It's just that generally I don't enjoy the content. I mean, yeah, obviously you enjoy it when you have to go on holiday, but I don't really see myself into the work. And also is very affiliate focused. Google also has got a lot of presence there with Google Plus, all this sort of stuff. It's something that never appealed to me. Just personally.
Yeah, I'm mixed on travel, although it's the one that has been the longest throughout my career. I mean, going back to when the idea of keyword research was that Yahoo used to publish a list of their top 10 keywords, and travel was, number one of the ones they could actually mention, because they did filter out the rude ones. Travel, has been a long-term client. I've really enjoyed some of the projects I've done, particularly working with some of the tourist boards for various places, and really getting into the culture and the country itself. So I like travel. I don't like a lot of the travel companies because, yeah, they just want to rank and they don't want to actually create the content to do it. But when you get one that does get it, wow, it's a brilliant client. John?
First of all, I'm a real science nerd, bigot, whatever you want to call me. So it can't fly in the face of actual what I consider good science. And assuming I pass that test, then I just really have to believe in the way people are dealing with their customers, and how they treat people and how they are approaching their business in terms of being helpful. So, you know, if I get that right attitude and I can believe in what they're doing, then I really can get jazzed about helping them and working with them. I can be very selective, and I like that, so I am very selective. I got to get really into it.
Army threw you a comment. He said he thinks it would be fantastic to actually see a great white shark before he dies. I think those two things could go together.
Exactly. Only trouble is, if you see a great white that way, it's going to be as you're saying, oh, as you're flying in the air and he's taking your leg off or whatever. That's not exactly how you want to meet him. It's best to be on a boat somewhere, and then you see the fin and the boat swings over and you watch him cruising. That's the safest way to see a white shark. And at least in Southern California, you could probably go out on a nice quiet morning on a boat cruise and see a few sharks out in the middle of the channel. You know, it's not unusual.
Yeah, those are the ones that have occasionally taken a bite out of a surfer, surfboard and all. And you know, there's not the kind of sharks I want to be messing with. Those are the kind of sharks I only want to see in soup.
Yeah. Well, generally the problem is when you are around an area where there's a rookery or a lot of seals, and that's what happens is those sharks will confuse you with seals, the way you're splashing or making noise or you're near a bunch of seals. So if I see a lot of seals, you know, I get out of there. You know, I don't want to be confused with lunch.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to be anywhere near the real lunch. You know, so yeah, I don't like to see seals around. If I see a bunch of seals, then we move on. You know, now dolphins, on the other hand, we like to see them because you usually don't see sharks when there's a pod of dolphins around.
No, the dolphins will actually chase sharks off. It's one of the things I love about dolphins.
Yeah, they'll chase them off.
Yeah. They swim under them and come up really fast underneath, punch them in the belly, effectively.
Yeah.
Sharks have a floating stomach, and if you hit them hard in the belly, it makes it go forward, which apparently is really unpleasant for them.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think it would be unpleasant for anybody.
Yeah. I must admit, I only have a floating stomach after certain liquid lunches, which I do a lot less these days. Steve, any particular markets you hate?
I used to be a big fat whore. I didn't really care. It was not always my responsibility to determine whether the client was a good guy or a bad guy, but that's kind of changed a little over the years. Mostly because like was said before, I have the ability to be more selective. I actually have a big affiliate client, and he is a colossal pain in the ass to work with, but you know, we've had some successes there. And I've got clients in the porn industry, and they've been a lot of fun to work with because they understand people need to get paid. The worst, though, I've ever had were, you know, I guess the only ones that I've had that were really a problem were the ones that start off the conversation with, "We're good Christians here." That tends to fly. You know, I've come to the conclusion over the years that anybody that starts out the conversation telling you how good they are about whatever, they're probably not. So, you know, it's real individual, I guess would be the word for it.
It's a bit like the words "trust me." The people you should never have to say it. They show you can. The people who say it, you usually can't trust them.
Yeah. So, I mean, we used to do a lot of reputation management. Not so much anymore. And if we do, it's on a very case-by-case basis, and the reasons why. If it's because there are multiple people with a similar identity, those are easy. Those are fun to take. If it's because the person really did do something that really shouldn't be forgotten, then we'll send them on their way. That's really the only area where we kind of stay out of it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Terry?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of affiliate marketing. And I won't touch anything that's hate anything or judgmental. So Christian sites would be off limits for me as well. Tend to be a little too judgmental for my liking.
What about anti-mozzers? Would you maybe make an exception for the anti-moz
Anything hate, like haters, you know, fanatics are the same thing to me. Like usually one is the other in my experience at least.
Yeah. I was watching this thing about the KKK the other day, and I was just absolutely gobsmacked because there they are, and they're burning a cross, which is one of their great, ceremonies. And I'm kind of thinking, hang on, look. Obviously, you must know the story of Jesus. You must know that the Romans are the white supremacists, and Jesus is the Jew. You must realise this, that you are on the wrong side. Surely you must realise this.
But they don't. I happen to live in the middle of where the KKK was originally formed, and you would be amazed at how, on one hand, you could be talking to somebody, they're the nicest, most upstanding person in the world, and it's like a switch flips, and all reason leaves. And it's like, really? Just because of skin color? Or just because of religion? It's been eye-opening living down here after living other places in the country for a while.
Yeah, it's to me, it's always fascinating how people can be very interesting and yet be so thick about some things to the point of ignorance. It's like always fascinates me, those kind of people. I don't have much to do with them, but when I meet them, they're always fascinating.
It's always struck me as probably the most awkward decision that search engineers have to make is where to draw the line between making information available to us to be able to counter it and censorship. I think censorship is a very dangerous ground anyway. I fully believe in the Constitution and the right to free speech. You have the right to say anything you like and be judged on it. And I think sometimes people forget that and be judged on it is a part of that. It doesn't mean you can say anything you like and we all have to nod and smile and pat you on the head and say, well said. I disagree with you, but well said. We are allowed to call you an idiot.
In the old days, it used to be you were allowed to punch them in the nose. And now you're the bad guy I was just reading a story a couple of days ago. There was a kid picking on a blind kid by hitting him in the head. He's hitting a blind kid in the head. A third kid walked up and punched him in the nose and said, "I've told you not to do that." That kid got suspended for bullying the bully. It's like, there's something wrong with the world. But that's a whole nother subject.
Yeah, political correctness is being just taken to a limit that is unfathomable to me. Like,
yeah,
I don't understand it at all a lot of times.
It is. That's probably the thing I struggle with sometimes the hardest. I mean, one of the reasons I've got into over the years doing these mammoth length SEO posts is I try and be thorough. I try and put both sides and let people make up their own minds. I think that is important in any society for that society to be free. I struggle with any system that wants to impose its way through anything other than education. I think, look, if you're so sure you're right, then surely all you need to do is educate people and they can make up their own minds and they're going to agree with you. If you're sending troops instead of teachers, you're probably wrong. Wherever that is in the world. And I do struggle with that, and some other things. I struggle with some of the charities out there. You know, sending clean water over to places. Look, that sounds really great. It sounds really worthwhile. But why don't we send some of the people who teach survival courses to teach them how to purify water, wherever it is?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of needing clean water, they are then enabled to clean that water for themselves.
Yeah, but half the money that goes to get the clean water actually pays someone here to collect the money.
I don't know how many of you have heard of your clean water thing. Tricked me. You've heard of Kiva? It's a micro loan system. It's not a donation. It's actually a physical loan, and you get paid back, no interest, whatever. And I've been doing a lot of my Kiva donations to villages who are buying water filtration systems, not buying water. And and it's so I try to do my global support that way by picking projects that have longevity to them, something that is going to be a lasting change rather than a band-aid on the problem.
Yeah, yeah. There's always been this slight thing where a rat catcher doesn't want to eliminate rats. They want to provide enough of a service that doesn't completely get rid of the rats. Ideally, it moves them to the house next door so they can go and work there as well. You know, the rat catcher is not in the business of getting rid of the problem. And some people have argued that, you know, the justice system is a little bit like that. They aren't interested in completely clearing up crime in the police department, because what would they do then? The military complex can be said to be the same. We don't want a world that's so peaceful that there's no more need for soldiers and weaponry and all of these weapon systems that are developed by companies. They don't want to put an end to war. And I think some of the charities don't want to solve the problem as much as treat the problem. And I really do pick and choose my charities carefully on that basis, which ones are actually trying to solve the problem and put themselves out of business.
And that's why I've always wondered about why are there so many charities for the exact same thing? You know, instead of creating your own charity, why not join your forces with somebody who's already doing it?
Right, unless it's like a local thing, then I completely agree. There's not enough collaboration in that area.
Yeah, let me pull up a comment by Carl here. He turned down a church recruitment site once. Probably felt that he made a good mistake. It's tough to find any unstale jobs in the usual outlets. Elance, I think, is often you're doing the same jobs over and over and over again. Craig has suggested sacrilege. Yeah, you guys want to consider doing these on Blab? I thought Blab only let you have 4 people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, an idiot and his brother can come and join. Had that happen on Friday in the hangout.
Oh yeah, the dojo.
For the dojo. Man, if I had been in the same room with the guy.
Yeah, I like some of the aspects of Blab. It's very easy to use. It's got a great tie-in with the chat flowing freely next to it. That part is good, but the professionalism of the video it produces is poor. I feel with Google, and yeah, the limit of 4 people in there is that's a no-go for the Bogus Hangout. You know, we like to pack our strips.
Yeah, and that's what I tell people, because I've had so many people ask me about that, and I'm like, it's just a different format, like, that doesn't work for Bill and Ammon's Bogus Hangout.
I don't think that limit of 4 is that terrible thing.
Yeah, it makes it manageable.
One person talking at a time anyway. So you have people flow in and out of seats in a Blab panel, and that to a degree makes up for it.
Yeah, I agree with that part, but I hate the fact it seems to have to split screen. You end up with 4 little videos. The video side of it I don't like. I think the communication format is very good. The Hangout aspect of it is very good, but I don't think it retains its rewatch value as much as a good Hangout does. For me, anyway.
To me, it's just not a controlled enough environment. I'm starting to get real, how do I say it, real particular about who I sit on a panel with. Let's put it that way. Some people, I just won't do it anymore. Even if I said I would go and those people are there, I won't go. Because I'm not going to share stage with people who interrupt me, talk over me, and, you know, or people that I don't really respect. Because I'm going to tell them, and, well, it just doesn't work for me.
Let me just interrupt and talk over you there, Terry. I'm just going
I know, hey, you guys are pretty kind with me because I know I have ADD and that comes out a lot of times, so I'll just apologize now. Like, if I haven't apologized recently, sorry for talking over you. I'm sorry for blurting things out.
I've never seen that here, not to the degree that I have in other places.
Okay, so let's actually take this question. Do we feel that Blab is good for business? And let's throw in Periscope while we're at it. You know, what do we think of these new formats? Do we think they are good for business? If so, for which business and in which way? Anyone?
Okay, so with Periscope, I did have it. I got rid of it. It's not my thing. It's not something that I'm going to use to reach anyone that I'm interested in reaching. It's just not for me. I've seen other people use it very effectively, and so it always comes down to right tool for the right circumstance, for the right audience.
I think it would be brilliant for companies that want to have their dev team talking with the users. I think it's brilliant for that conversational aspect. But
Periscope or Blab? Blab, yeah. I can totally see that. Yeah, Blab is great. Like that, I've been talking with Evernote business ambassadors, and like that is the coolest thing to me. Like I couldn't geek out hardcore about talking to some web devs. Like Evernote is like supreme to me. And that's been really cool. And they've been really awesome too. Like it came to a Blab, like I decided I wasn't done with the conversation that I was in, and so he's actually chatting me up right now. But so there's that reciprocity. So yes, I'm like a peon, you know, compared to the amount of people that are probably reaching out to them in customer service. But because I took that step to join them, they're now giving back, and they're joining me in things that I'm doing. I just think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not qualified to talk on any of this. Don't know what Periscope is. Don't really care.
Periscope is a very simple chat format. It's designed to work great on phones. I'd say it's more of a face-to-face communication tool. There really isn't any sort of split screen or the group chat is chat.
It's more just broadcasting.
I already have Facebook, Skype, and you know, the old live messenger. How many chats can I talk on at once? One, maybe. You know, two would be stretching it, because I'm just not that nimble. You know, that's what I don't understand about these things. How can people be doing all these things and have a frickin' job?
I'll tell you what Blab makes me think of. It makes me think of somebody took a Skype chat and then streamed it on Twitch. Because it's got that user feed just like Twitch and the split screen mode of...
So, I mean, Craig and I have been doing been on a lot of Blabs and watching a lot of Blabs recently, and honestly, I mean, yours was the first Hangout on Air I've watched since spending a lot more time on Blab, and from an audience participation standpoint, it is so stale compared to the audience participation aspect on Blab. Yeah. And if at the end of the day, you can, in both of these formats, whether it's Hangout on Air or Blab, you get a video that you can output to YouTube, then, you know, what's the difference? You know, I think that I don't know, the engagement level is that much higher on Blab, especially because of its integration with Twitter. Like, you can bring people in, and plus they're promoting current active Blabs. So it's not just like here's a Hangout on Air where you're promoting it and you're the only one promoting it, but they are, and people can just randomly stumble in and watch.
And you have the side, like after one finishes, you have the little side panel that shows you related Blabs, which is really cool.
Yeah, I just think there's so much more engagement level, and I think that, in comparison now, coming back to the Hangouts on Air, like I said, they seem so much flatter than they did before I was using Blab.
Yeah, and also, like, just from I haven't heard a ton of people talking about this, but this is, like, the coolest thing to me. Like, how many people are, like, lost because they want to repurpose their content, but they need to learn about Blueberry and, like, all these different things to, like, upload it to iTunes. And, like, there's so many steps in that. With Blab, you create one that's on air, and they give you in an email MP4 format and video format. Like, they give it to you. You don't have to do that. It's so cool. So from, like, a quick content curation standpoint, that's unprecedented.
100% agree.
So, Craig, I know you've been. Well, hopefully we'll be back in a second. I think he's just sorting out his background speakers there, or grabbing some headphones. I know that he's been using Blab a lot. I know Mark has been using Blab a lot. If Mark talks much more about Blab, I am going to slap him. Virtually, I am going to slap him.
Mark gets excited about new things, and it's cute.
Yes.
Well, no, I mean, remember his wife was away for a while, so he's had these late nights of by himself time.
Right.
Blab is a safer site than some.
I get excited thinking about that. How cool is it that he has, like, an outlet for people that, like, he can talk to while his wife is away? Like, I just think that's really cool.
But
kind of a lonely heart.
Well, I mean, I kind of learned this from you, Emma, which is, at the end of the day, the live audience is one thing, but you have to be able to repurpose your content, and they've solved that problem. I mean, if anything, they're making it easier.
Yes.
So, if you're getting the same quality, I mean, yeah, it's not HD video, but if you're getting repurposable content in raw form that you can then repackage however you want, share it however you want, but you get a more engaging conversation, then it seems like a win situation.
The one thing I do notice with Blab is that it seems just a little bit more dependent on having that stream of chat next to it. Because it's so in your face for the people on the screen, it's very, very easy to therefore assume it's always going to be there and to take that into context. And I find it's difficult to re-watch Blabs later and get the same feel from them when that conversation isn't happening.
I think that it may change a little bit. Hopefully they'll integrate, like, timestamping for comments, because then you can actually see when did this question happen, and you can see where it relates to different parts of the video. But without that, I believe that you're correct. Like, it's lacking that feature.
I can pass that question back to Craig now, because I know you've been watching quite a lot of Blabs recently. What?
Oh, g'day guys. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying out. I've got all this gear and I'm trying to figure it out and all of that. So is it coming through?
Yeah. Yeah, loud and clear.
Oh, great.
You want to tap a few more times?
Good. Okay. So go Wales. Anyway. Sorry, I had to get that in, Ammon.
I was watching. It was a good game. I mean,
yeah. That was brilliant.
Wales really pulled out all the stops. You can see the injuries they took to play that well. They were holding nothing back. Good on them. Yeah. Anyway,
no, it was about Blab. Okay, about Blab. This is what I want to rave about Blab for. Okay, and specifically for the purposes of a platform or a community like this, is 1 to 2 months ago, or actually for my entire online life, I've been really, really nervous about getting on video, about getting on online and talking. When Blab came along, I plucked up the courage to get online, to go into one of the conversations. I just picked one, and I instantly felt comfortable there. And not only that, I started to I started to really enjoy it. I felt a sense of I was really relaxed, and not only that, I sort of made connections with people, and that connection has followed through into Twitter because there's that link.
Yeah.
So in terms of there was a question about how can it be used for Twitter? How can it be used for business? The connection with business, I guess, is in that Twitter connection. It's also in that online comfortable nature or comfortable feeling that you have in going into the Blab environment. It's very instant. The video is low quality, but what it lacks in the low quality video, it makes up in the way it's able to get people on there that wouldn't otherwise go online. And so for something like this show, it's perfect. You might only have 4 seats, but the seat becomes a hot seat. So you get people coming on that will come on and they'll go, hey, I like the conversation on here, and I like the feeling of it because I really love your show. It's just totally random in that. And when I can watch it, I will because you're just a great bunch of people. There is the difference between something like this and Blab is that yes, you've got the 4 seats, but the seats turn over. So you have this. So you get through more people, meeting different people, meeting them in their backgrounds, etc., etc. You also don't have the lag. So you've got this conversation going on the right-hand side, and that conversation might actually, might be quite separate from the conversation going in the video, but you've got people that are having this really, really fluid conversation. And you've got these connections taking place there too, and they're just really, really quick. You don't have this delay that you get in the Hangouts.
Yeah.
Now the Hangouts is really, really important for professional video and all of that kind of thing. So yeah, there is quite a difference.
I wouldn't want to do the series I've been doing with Ian on any other platform. Apart from if we shot the video professionally and then put it up on YouTube. I think only Hangouts is the right one for that. I must admit, Blab has that really nice conversation. The fact that it connects directly to Twitter is fantastic. Same handles that people are using. Maybe that's it. Is it just that G+ is still too quiet a social platform for its tie-in to G+ to equal that?
Well, Hangouts on Air never had like a start page, for just here are Hangouts going on, allowing you to easily promote Hangouts or drop into Hangouts. You had to search for the hashtag, and it became a different.
Well, you could go to events.
Yeah, but those are your events, or it was completely overwhelmed.
Well, there's also the other button that says like other events.
Nobody goes there.
Yeah. I did. That's how I found David Amerlin and Chris Lang. But we've already established I'm a lot nerdier than a lot of people, so sorry.
But as opposed to just going blab.im, and there's just conversations to jump into and watch. It's a totally different experience of just jumping in. You don't have to seek it out. They're right there for you.
Okay, so
people do.
Where's the business in this? We can see the fun in it.
Right.
Do we think Blab is suitable for business at the moment? Like I said, I think it would be great for talking with developers where that conversation is the entire point, is to get people informed and therefore excited for things that are coming up.
Or solving problems, like customer service kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Look,
Oh,
I
we're
think
on Twitter. Jump on in a blab with me, and I can explain this whole thing to you. I can do a screen share.
Okay.
It's
I have an example. You're on Blab, using Blab for customer service, and an irate customer comes in and starts saying all the bad stuff about your product that you
Eject.
don't want people to know. You're screwed.
You eject them.
No way to stop.
You just eject them.
you can kick them out if you're the moderator.
Yeah.
Okay.
SEM
Everybody then turn on you. Twitter people will turn on their mothers, for Christ's sake.
But well, I mean, SEM Rush is on there now. They're doing
wow.
a blab series.
That's
Oh wait. They've got a very cute Russian chick. You know, she's playing it up. It's worth watching. But anyway.
Yeah. Just remember, this is being recorded, and your wife does know how to use a computer.
I know. Hey, how horrible is that? I'm all talking about how wonderful it is that Mark has this to turn to when his wife is away, and now you're talking about some cute Russian chick being on there.
I know. Women are going to start banning blab.
I work in the whole school side of things. Now one thing that I've found really interesting is that there's quite a big educators community on there that started. Now when I say big, I heard some statistics yesterday about the numbers that are using Blab, and I could be wrong, but this was from somebody who supposedly knew. But I heard that there was something like 70,000 people had subscribed to Blab, and there was something like 3,500 users. Now, I can't verify that, but it's still quite small numbers. But one thing that I noticed was that you get this kind of tribal thing going on in Blab, where you meet a bunch of people and you go, hey, I like that person, I'll follow them. And then you get a notification that you're on, and then boom, you're in there. So for example, when Mark Traphagen comes on, I'm interested in the sort of conversations that he's having on Blab at the moment, and so I get a notification, and boom, I'm in there, and I can see what he's saying. So you get this kind of this quick tribal kind of connectivity happening that comes straight to my phone. And then I'm on there. It's still in beta phase, obviously, and it's got lots of bugs. But the potential for building tribes around your interest groups is quite interesting, as well as that confidence thing.
I'm going to have to take us offline because we've gone past our hour as ever, but we'll carry on talking as we do. Thanks everyone for joining us. See you again next week. And
Thank you.